So welcome to the hypercard. So originally I was just gonna talk about the history of the hypercard and just make like a short, very short YouTube like community post behind like the hypercard and the history behind it. But then I discovered that the history is a bit more convoluted than I thought. So I decided to teach, just how to make the most like basic form of the hypercard. So nothing too complex, and also explain it. I'll explain it more like in my line of thought in like the history section. But I'll only be teaching how to make a hypercard. So just the hypercard itself. I won't be teaching you on how to like use the hypercard for any like particular effects, but you can figure something out. I think that you'll be able to figure something out, or just use it as like sort of like a museum piece, right? Sort of like a little curiosity for whatever reason. But yeah, so welcome to the history and the construction of the hypercard. So yeah, let's just get into it. So let's go over the publication first, publication history of the hypercard first, because that is, the most straightforward part of the hypercard. So the first formal publication of the hypercard was actually first in a magic publication, if you would believe it or not. So it was actually in the Pallbearers Review, Volume 10, Number 10, back in 1975 by Carl Fulves, or however you pronounce it, I'm really sorry. But in there, there's actually a section dedicated to the hypercard by Martin Gardner. And Martin Gardner basically just presented it as like sort of a problem, right? So it's like, look, how do you solve this interesting little puzzle, right? So it's not really like as a magic effect. It's published in a magic magazine sort of deal, but it's not really like a magic effect. And then that's basically it for the first formal publication of it. And then let's fast forward to basically 3 years later. So 3 years later, that's when the hypercard was actually first published in lay people history. So in lay people history, the first formal publication of the hypercard was back in 1978. So again, that's like 3 years after. So it's actually in the amateur scientist column of the Scientific American, right, journal, right? So it's a pretty high up there journal, right? We went from magic magazines to like an actual scientific journal, which is sort of interesting. But the author, to everyone's surprise, I guess, is actually Martin Gardner as well. So same person. So in case you didn't really know, Martin Gardner was actually not just someone who was interested in magic, but he was also like a very popular like science and mathematics author. So that's why he actually had an interest in I guess some other subjects. So that's why he was able to publish in both a magic magazine and also a layperson magazine. So I actually don't have a subscription with the Scientific American, so unfortunately I couldn't find like the exact issue and date of the of Martin Gardner's publication. So I can only mention like the year, but that should be about it for the publication in lay people history. But now we can go into the more convoluted side behind the hypercard, because even though Martin Gardner published two different articles on the hypercard, it doesn't mean that he created it, because publication history doesn't really it just says who publicized it first. It doesn't necessarily mean who created it. So the creator, as we all have come to know, is actually unknown. So we actually don't know the name of the creator, and it's not someone who is. It's complicated. So I'll just go over the timeline for this first. So so Tom Frame, who is someone who actually made like a booklet dedicated to the hypercard, actually tried tracking down the creator of the hypercard. And all of the sources actually point to one person, and that is Kim Isles. So Kim Isles, back when the hypercard was first like created or discovered, I want to say, Well, he was actually, well, not he, but they, I actually don't know what their gender is, so I'll stick with they. So they were actually a student at the University of British Columbia at the time, right? And during one of their, I don't know, days at the university, they actually met a student or a visitor of the, what is it, botanical forensic or something, something along those lines. I'm sorry, I'm not too sure, but they actually met a student slash visitor over there. And yeah, that's when this one person actually presented, and you guessed it, a hypercard to Kim Isles. And this person's hypercard was actually slightly different. So this hypercard was actually bent rather than being completely straight. So then the sail actually stuck out a bit more. So that's just a fun little fact. But then, yeah, the reason why the hypercard actually became associated with Martin Gardner was because Kim Isles actually sent a hypercard to Martin Gardner. And then, yeah, the rest is basically history. The problem is that Kim Isles actually doesn't know, they don't know who the person is, right? Because they said it was like either a student or a visitor, and they don't know their name. So as it turns out, the name of the person who created the hypercard is basically lost to history. I mean, I know that nowadays we still sort of associate it with Kim Isles, but ultimately Kim Isles is not the creator of the hypercard. This unknown person is the creator of the hypercard. So yeah, that's like the dead end. Like, besides Kim Isles, that's our dead end. We don't have any other like research path to find who the creator of the hypercard is, unfortunately. So yeah. But yeah, the rest is basically history, and then multiple other people have created their own like variations of the hypercard, including Don England, who created something that's known as the winged hypercard, which is sort of interesting. But what's really interesting about the hypercard was that because the source, the creator of the hypercard, was actually from like just a random university, it stands to reason that the hypercard wasn't actually meant for magic. It was just sort of like magical in nature, sort of like an optical illusion, where it's like it baffles and it confuses you, but it's not exactly meant to like enchant or astonish you, right? So it's just like a curiosity. It's just like some sort of illusion, right? Some sort of puzzle for someone to figure out. So it's never meant to be magic. But I mean, it's interesting to sort of see magicians sort of adapt a not really a layperson concept, but something so far removed from magic into the world of magic. So I just think that's interesting. But I guess this whole story, this whole history section just goes to show you just the importance of preserving history and just recording stuff in general, because imagine if people didn't try to do research into the hypercard, right? That they just looked at this and was like, yeah, that's pretty cool, I guess, right? And just moved on. Then we would have never known that this concept was from Kim Isles, right? Who is now a professor at the University of British Columbia, right? We would have never known. And if we didn't contact Kim Isles, we would have never known that this came from an unknown person. So just imagine the amount of things that we just lost to history because nobody just bothered to do research into it, right? So yeah, so value history, just try and preserve it, learn from it, because it just disappears faster than you think, right? Like if just one person just forgets about something, that whole thing just crumbles away. And so yeah, it's important that you preserve history. So yeah, so that's the history of the hypercard, and hope that you learned something from the history of the hypercard. But yeah, sometimes I feel more like a historian than a magician, but that's the fun part. So yeah. So before we go into how to construct your own hypercard, I just want to go into just a few materials that you may need for a hypercard, right? I mean, realistically, you can just sort of like rip the card, but why would you ever want to rip a hypercard into existence? I don't know why you would do that. So yeah, this is what you basically need for a hypercard, right? A pair of scissors. That's basically all you need, but I would highly recommend you to get a couple more things if you're just a beginner, right? So if you're just a beginner, you would need something like a pencil, glue, well, you don't really need glue, but you know, it's sort of important for the construction of the template, which is something that I'll teach you right after this. So yeah, you also need a couple of playing card templates, and I'll teach you how to make that right now. So let's go into how to get the playing card template. So yeah, you'll need basically 3 different templates. So these templates don't really serve any purpose besides like alignment purposes, but still, like, templates are pretty important to make sure that you have like everything straight on and everything, right? So naturally get like maybe three different playing cards, right? So let's just say yeah, let's just say these 3. All right. So we're going to be making 3 different templates, and so yeah, I'll make 3 different colors for each different template over here. So these are our different templates over here. All right. So the 3 different templates that we'll make are well, one, it's a long half card over here. Then we have a short half card. Then we have a short quarter card over here. All right. So those are the 3 templates that we'll make. And so let's start with our first template, which is the long half card over here. So to make our first template, which is the long half card, you just basically need to fold this card in half along its short edge. And so yeah, I mean, it sounds direct enough, but I do want to go into my folding technique. So my folding technique is essentially, oh, that's actually a double backer, huh? But anyways, I want to go into my folding technique, which is just so you want to match the corners. You don't want to crease the card just yet, but so you want to match the corners. Then once you match the corners over here, well, now you're actually going to apply some pressure, causing the card to actually crease, right? And you want to apply enough pressure so that you actually get a fold over here, right? So once you have this, now you're going to move your left hand down, match the edge once more, and then just press down on the other side again. All right, and then you're going to continue until you reach the very end of the card. And then once you have that, well, now you completed your template, like so. And now this will actually allow you to draw straight lines along the long edge, like so, right? So nothing too difficult, but yeah. So if you want to make sure that the card doesn't open up, you can like take a glue stick and just rub the inside and just press down. I did that for I actually used super glue for my template, but I don't have any more super glue, so you're gonna have to be stuck with this. But yeah, if you have super glue, just dab the corners over here, and then just fold it up, and then you'll have your template like so. And you could use it for basically forever. So yeah, that's going to be it for our first template. This is the long edged long half card over here. All right. Our second template is this, which is which is basically the short half card. So it's going to be essentially the exact same, except that you're going to fold it on the long edge over here, right? So you're just going to do the same thing. You're just going to bend this card until you match the corners, and then once you match the corners, you're just going to apply some pressure, and then fold the card like so. All right, and then you're just going to continue down until you match everything else. All right. And also, if you're not happy with it, honestly it doesn't have to be exact, since it's just a hyper card. But if you're making something like more precise gimmicks, I would highly recommend you to make sure that everything is aligned, or else it might be slightly off. But for just a hyper card, like just like a slight misalignment won't end the world. So that's fine, right? But yeah, that's going to be it for our second template, which is just a half short card like so. All right. And then we have our final template, which is just a quarter card along the long edge, like so. Right? So this is basically the exact same thing. So this starts off the exact same way as the second template. So here you want to fold the card along its long edge, like so, in half, like so, and then it's good, douche, right? All right, so you want to make sure that you apply enough pressure to hold the corners together as you fold the card, because if you don't press enough, if you don't actually hold the edges with enough pressure, chances are the card will slide away, and then you'll end up with a mismatched edge, which is not really preferable for a template, but that's good enough, right? So now that you fold it in half, preferably now you want to glue everything together, because if you don't glue everything together, when you start the second fold, the edges will move, and when the edges move, you won't have a very exact template. So I highly recommend you to glue everything now and then do the second fold. All right, so you can see here that I didn't glue everything together before folding, and that's why everything is sort of like mismatched. So glue everything now, and then once you've done that, just fold our quarter card like so. All right, so we're just going to fold it again. Oof, that's yeah, this is gonna be a bit hard, like so. All right, like so, and then just do the same thing, and then we're good. All right, and that's our quarter card template, like so. All right, and then you can once again apply a bit of glue in between, and then you can have your quarter card template. So that's our three templates, right? Our long template, our long half card, our short half card, and then our short template card, short quarter card, like so. All right, sounds good. And those are the three templates that we need for our hyper card. So now that we've made all our templates, we can just grab another card. So if you don't want to ruin like an actual card or whatever, you can just grab like an ad card, or you can grab like a double backer or a blank card or a double facer. It doesn't really matter. Just try different cards to see different effects. But if you're just like a beginner and you don't want to like ruin any decks, just do it with an ad card, right? So you're going to take a random card, and you're going to use this this quarter card over here, right? We're going to take this quarter card, and you're going to align it with the top of the card, like so. All right, so you want to make sure that everything is aligned, and then you're going to take your pencil. You're going to take your pencil, and then you're going to draw a line along the quarter card, like so. All right. Next, you're going to take your template once again, and then you're basically going to turn the card around, and you're going to draw another mark along the quarter side over here again. All right, so again, you want to draw inwards into it. All right, and you want to make sure that everything is thoroughly aligned, like so. All right, so once you have these two lines, what you're going to do is that now you're going to take the full you're going to take your short half card, align it with the edge of the playing card again, and now you're actually going to draw your other line, like so. All right, like so. And then once you have that, you should have three different lines, like so. So one at the quarter mark, one at the half mark, and then one at another quarter mark again, right? I'm not sure if you can see it here. Okay, like so. All right, now you're going to take your half card, your half long card, and you're going to align it halfway through with the card again. All right, and now you're going to draw another mark. All right, there we go. And now you should have basically 8 sections. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So you should have 8 distinct blocks, like so. All right, so here it is. Sounds good? All right. So now what you want to do is that you're going to want to take your scissors over here and you're going to cut at the quarter mark over here. All right, you're going to cut both quarter marks. All right, so actually I'm going to take my other side because here's wonky. So I'm going to take my scissors, I'm going to cut this quarter until I reach the halfway point. All right, so I'm going to cut until I reach the quarter mark. All right, and we're going to do the exact same thing for the other quarter, and make sure that this other cut is on the exact same side as the first cut, right? Because if it's on like the opposite side, then it won't work. So make sure that this second cut is on the same side as this cut. All right, so now you want to give it another cut like so, and then yeah, that's going to be it for our 2 cuts. Next, we're going to turn the card around. So now you have the flap facing away from you. And now you have your center mark over here. You're going to cut it at the center mark until you hit the long center mark as well, all right? So we're going to give it a cut. And there we go. So all of your cuts should stop at the long center mark over here, all right? So you have one over here. So, okay, so you should have one cut along the center over here, and then you should have 2 cuts along the quarters over here. All right, sounds good. All right, so now what you're going to do is that you have the center cut facing towards you and the flap facing away from you. So what you're going to do now is you're going to take the flap over here, and you're actually going to fold it towards you. So you're going to take this flap and you're going to fold it towards you. If you find out that your flap isn't like cut deeply enough, then you should probably take your scissors and just cut it until it's at the center mark, right? Because sometimes you're a bit too cautious and then you don't reach the center mark. But make sure that it is actually at the center mark. So now that it's actually at the center mark, take your flap and fold it towards you. You want to fold it until it basically creases, all right? So make sure that it creases, and then just press down. So now you have your sail. You have your sail. So now you can unfold it, and now you have your little flap over here, all right? The next thing you're going to do is that you're going to take your right hand, and you're going to pinch the right half over here, right? So I have my right half over here. And what you're going to do now is that you're going to take this and you're going to spin it until it reaches, it faces it's on the same level as the other half over here, all right? So once it's on the same level as the other half, that basically completes your hyper card, right? This is the fundamental hyper card. I might need to cut a bit deeper for some of these. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's why. And don't worry, you could always like adjust your cuts later on, so don't worry about it. So over here, I have my flap, and I just twist it around like so. And that completes our HyperCard. So yeah, you just need to, it looks like a really interesting optical illusion, even though it's just flap here and this whoop, right? It's yeah, I mean there's not much to it. It's just you just take one half and you just twist it around, and then it looks like basically an impossible object, because you're like, how did this flap go anywhere, right? So yeah, that's basically it for our HyperCard over here, right? So now you have a neat little impossible object over here, right? So yeah. But what you can do is that you can actually untwist the card, and you can see all the pencil marks over here. You can actually just take an eraser and just lightly go over the pencil marks, and that should erase everything, alright? And once you've erased everything, now you could just twist everything back into place, and now you have your HyperCard, alright? So yeah, if you take a double facer, you'll have something a lot more interesting, which is something like this, right? But this is made using a normal card, so now you have something that looks like this, right? Or you can have a something that's interesting, which is Don England's winged HyperCard, which is something that looks like this, right? So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can explore about the HyperCard, and so I do hope that you take time to look into it and look into how you can actually turn this into a magic effect rather than just having it as a magical object. So yeah. And also, just as a tip for using the pencil, draw inward, right? Draw inward at an angle into the card, right? So you want to do this. You don't really want to draw perpendicular with the card like so, right? Because if you draw perpendicular with the card like this, chances are the wood of this card is actually going to interfere. The wood of this pencil rather is going to interfere with the template, and then you can see that the graphite, I don't know what this is called. Yeah, the graphite is actually going to draw away from the template. So by having the by drawing inward into the template rather than straight down, you're going to draw an exact line where the template actually ends, right? So we want to draw inwards, all right? And also, if just as a general like pencil tip, if your thumb like here starts hurting, you can actually just you can actually grab the pencil like this, right? It looks weird and feels weird at first, but having the index finger and the middle finger just sort of just catch the pencil makes it so that you can apply more pressure onto the pencil without like any part of your hand hurting. So we could just do this pose if any part of your hand just starts hurting. So this pose is good for artists and anything else. So yeah. So if you're interested in the hypercards and how you actually use them, there's only really one source that I can point you towards, and that is the Hypercard Project by Tom Frame. I don't know of any book, download, DVD, VHS tape for some reason that goes into as much detail on hypercards as this one single booklet. So honestly, if you're interested, just go grab it on Tom Frame's website. It's just 25 bucks, and honestly, some of the concepts that he goes over is very interesting, so I highly recommend you go into it. And yeah, I mean, there's really no other source that I would recommend than Tom Frame's Hypercard Project. There is one downside though, and that is Tom England doesn't really teach how to make the winged hypercard on there. So you're basically just going to have to figure out yourself. And even on Don England's Penguin Live lecture, he really doesn't go into how to make a winged hypercard. So that's just going to be a little mystery left to you. So yeah, you can figure out how to make one on your own. But yeah, that's going to be a story for another time. So I personally don't really use the hypercard for any sort of like magic effects. I know some people do, but you know, to each their own, right? So honestly, go out and explore some possibilities with it. It's a very cool concept, and yeah, it's just a shame that we don't know who created hypercard, and I don't think we'll ever know unless the person who created it is like, yeah, that's me. Right? But honestly, yeah, it's just, yeah, no one's ever gonna like know, which is sort of a shame, right? But in the meantime, you should probably keep your templates. So these templates over here, if you're just like planning on making one hypercard and throwing them away, I wouldn't recommend it. I actually would recommend you to keep them, because in the future, if you're ever interested in making gimmicks or any sort of that, any sort of those things, these templates would actually be pretty useful. So I actually had a gimmick making phase, but I left that like a long time ago. So I still have these templates left over, which I was then like, oh yeah, I could probably apply these to hypercards to have a more precise thing, right? But yeah, besides that, so just keep your own templates just in case, right? But besides that, that's going to be it for today. Yeah, stay healthy, stay safe, and explore more about the hypercard, because it is pretty interesting and it is a pretty unexplored concept. So yeah, stay healthy, stay safe, and see you guys next time.